make more good in the all-new Sportage X-Pro. Kia, movement that inspires.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
New Trail Brewing Company proudly crafts their beers right here in central Pennsylvania. Brewed with only the best possible ingredients, New Trail produces a variety of year-round brands as well as weekly experimental recipes. New Trail Broken Heels is Pennsylvania's favorite local hazy IPA. This beer is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is perfect for a pregame tailgate all the way through the victory celebration.
What's the best mid-size pickup? Tacoma. What's the number one mid-size truck in resale value? Tacoma. Want to get great gas mileage, 4 doors, and 4-wheel drive? Tacoma. Sioka Toyota of Williamsport has over 25 available right now. You can lease a brand new, never-driven Toyota Tacoma for just $379 a month. That's 30 months, 3,000 cash or trade, 10,000 miles a year. This is while supplies last. Buy yours or reserve yours today and see the Sioka difference. And remember, tell them Johnny sent you.
We welcome you into another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. I think I have just about a couple little spots here, just about dried out from Saturday's contest.
You did fumble though the way I saw you.
Good Lord. Yeah, that was one of them there weather games is what that was, dear Goon. After a beautiful day for tailgating.
You've been to a lot of wet games.
Been to a lot of wet games, a lot of frozen games, a lot of snowy games.
That was
part of the fun of being a football fan.
You said it was what, Penn State 2006?
Yes.
Akron. That was the most rain I ever saw in a Penn State game, other than our 2 bowl games in Florida.
Oh, yeah, the Auburn.
My final game at Penn State.
That was it?
Yep. What a way to go out.
That
so
was,
my last 2 games,
I wore dress shoes, and they were absolutely so. I mean, it was like 2 inches deep in the parking lot, maybe 3 inches deep.
My last home game at Penn State was the Snow Bowl.
Oh yeah,
versus Michigan.
Yeah,
and then my last physical game at Penn State was versus Auburn in 52 inches of water. Amazing.
So, well, let's get into the game. The fumble situation. There's a couple of takeaways for me on it. On one hand, at some point, right, you're going to have some turnovers over the course of the season, and Penn State had been remarkably good.
Yep.
And I know the weather is a lot of people are saying, well, yeah, what do you expect with the weather? But from where I was sitting and watching the replays on the scoreboard, those weren't weather fumbles. Every one of them, it was popped out. And it wasn't like, again, the coaches are going to have a different take of this, but I mean, it wasn't recklessness. Like they weren't, nobody was holding the ball out and just careless. I mean, it was, I understand there's things you need to do to protect the ball better. I get it. And teams are going to be coming now for our running backs. So they need to be ready for sure moving forward. But I mean, it didn't feel like all 5 of them were just good, clean shots on the ball, or the one was just an outright strip. Good guy reached in, grabbed the ball, and pulled it out.
I didn't think about
but it wasn't really weather. Now, I guess how much did the weather contribute to how easily the ball popped out of there then? I don't know.
Well,
but
I said to Booch last night, how many center quarterback exchanges were fumbled? 0.
Well, yeah, that was the thing. It was, and
that's
really,
a point, man. That's a good point to think about.
Yeah, so I don't know, but
they were real fumbles. They were true fumbles, and they better be ready because every team they're going to play from now on, they're going to sit there and say for the next 4 years, they're going to say Singleton, he fumbles.
Yep, no question.
Poke it, strip and rip.
But listen, the fact is, I thought there was a great. Going into the game, I thought there was a great disparity in talent between the 2 rosters, and I do think even though it was a high turnover game for Penn State, and it wasn't like Northwestern played error-free football either. But Penn State really did control the line of scrimmage, and at the end of the day, that allowed Penn State to win as comfortably as you can in a 10-point game, right? Like, I mean, it didn't feel – you were never completely comfortable.
Did you stay in the
I'll speak
stadium?
for myself. I did, right?
Stayed in the state the whole time?
Yeah, the whole time. It was miserable.
All right, so I was at home by the time the quarterback sneak.
Yeah.
And when they went to commercial, I looked at my buddies that I was watching the game with, and I said, damn, that's a touchdown. Because on the last review before they went away, I know you couldn't see it, he spins into the end zone, and it's like, oh, they're going to call that. They're going to review that and call a touchdown. But when they came back and they showed a slow motion, he actually hit his knee and then rolled into the end zone. Because at that point, I'm like, dude, it's 17-14.
Yeah.
This is like bad. And like one play, like a Minnesota type of play from 99
and it kept
play
feeling
away.
like Penn State's about to put the game away, and then it never happened.
Correct.
And it just was unsettling for that very reason. It's like, man, this could end up being one of those really fluky things that happen. All of the Minnesota game in '99, where you're like, but we were the better team. Our team was better, and what just happened?
You said Rutgers and Iowa 2 weeks ago, how the Rutgers dominated part of that game.
And so here's the thing. So I'm coming away from the game like a little, I don't know, ornery, irritated, feelings a little, along with shivering and miserable and all of that. But then, so I am completely unaware. Usually I'm either, looking at the phone and or listening to the radio while I'm watching the game in the stadium. So I'm aware to some degree of what's happening. I was not getting my phone out to save the world on Saturday with that weather. I'm not taking any chances. With my luck, the phone will be ruined. I had trouble enough just getting it out and getting it scanned to get in the freaking stadium. So I'm like, it's staying in my pocket and under wraps the rest of the way. So I am not aware of anything that happened. I mean, I'm following the games up until we go in at around 2:30. And then I'm not aware of anything that's happening. And as I'm reading through what has been happening in college football throughout the day, I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, there is something to be said about 5-0, right? Like there are, in today's world of college football, it is not easy to win all of the games you're supposed to win, right? And
that wasn't a bad game.
You look at Purdue, Minnesota. You look at Wisconsin. I don't know what has happened there. That is a school that I'm just not expecting to fire a coach during the season. Pretty much, period. And then you look at Bealsman gets the big win over Wisconsin, and it's the dynamics here are just interesting in college football in general, and the Big Ten in specific. And it's like, you know what? Take care of business in the games that you should take care of business, and then gear up. And, the whole mentality of find a way to get the 1-0 each week. And now you have 2 weeks to get ready to go 1-0 in what will be the biggest game of the season to date at Michigan. And, Michigan certainly does not look invincible. I'll put it that way. Not that Penn State does either. But, I do think that this is a very winnable game for Penn State on the road. But it needs to be, to James Franklin's point, it can't be an off week. I mean, it has to be 2 weeks of really good preparation, mentally as much as anything, I think, to go out and get the job done at Michigan.
So we've been talking about how, it just seems like Coach is learning from a lot of, past issues that his teams have had in the past few years where stuff would snowball on him and stuff like that. And, let's not kid ourselves. James's record after a bye week is abysmal. So he's already gone out on a limb and said he's going to change things up and how they handle the bye week. So, but back to the Northwestern game, and you've heard me tell this story a bunch, but I got to say it on the air, and that's I remember the Notre Dame game in 2006. I believe we were out at Notre Dame. I think that was it. It was definitely 6, but 7 was home. So 06 out there when they just throttled us.
Yeah.
and nothing went right. We were dropping interceptions. We were throwing like stupid fumbles and this and that. And I remember sitting next to the old man. The old man looks at me and he's like, "Hey, Ken, it's like this. Some days it's just like one of those things. Some days it's never going to go your way." So, but as I've often said, and he would always hammer this home to us, every winning team has a game that they should not win, that they win. And just to go back, Northwestern was not that game. That wasn't the game that we didn't deserve to win, but won. We deserved to win that game because Northwestern was absolutely abysmal, horrible. But I told Boots last night on the Players Show, I was sitting there saying, we talk about how we worry about that big T word before big games a week before, and I'm telling you, I would put Michigan on a little bit of the trap game warning with Indiana this week. I just want to say that because it's still fresh because I watched the show this morning that we did last night. But so I remember I sit there and say, Michigan has Indiana right there, but do you know that they're talking and they're looking forward to Penn State in 2 weeks? A top 5 matchup. So that's the big thing in their mind. And I'm not going to be surprised. I would not be surprised. I mean, would it happen? Could it happen? Yes. Going to happen? Probably not. But it's there. It's got to be in their head. So James already going away from his years in the past off week or bye week, idle week, whatever we're going to call it. So I asked the players what their routine is, and that is going to be that they're just going to treat it just like the same. And actually, they're going to have Saturday. It's just they're going to treat it like it's a game, and then Sunday is back to work. Yeah. So Saturday they'll have off, but then Saturday they'll have practice. Just like it's a game, and then Sunday they'll go back like it's a regular work week. So a little different than the old man used to do. The old man used to tell us to get the hell home. It was pretty cool. That was always nice to get home one time during the season because you weren't going to get home for Thanksgiving. You weren't going to be home for Christmas. So Joe liked us, wanted us to get home for a weekend. And it was always good to get home just to see your family and your friends and go out and watch football games with your buddies and stuff like that, like you had done before college. And so is this, 10 days from now, 12 days from now, is this the biggest game in James Franklin's career? I mean, there's a lot of people saying, and I'm getting there. It's like, okay, now it's like this is the time, and you have the team.
It depends on how you're looking at this, because I mean, in the moment, I think it's going to feel like that, or at least close to it. There's a couple of games, if we go back, that I would say, regardless of how that game at Michigan turns out, would be bigger in the overall picture of Penn State football and for James Franklin. But the other component is, listen, if Penn State goes out there and loses to Michigan and then runs the table the rest of the way, there's nobody that's batting an eye at the loss to Michigan. And obviously then you need the help somewhere unless Michigan wins the Big Ten title because of it. I mean, but even then, I don't know. 11-1, even if it's a loss at Michigan, if you also get home wins over Minnesota and Ohio State and the other wins that Penn State will have gathered this season, I don't think there's any Penn State fan anywhere that's going to say this was anything but a success, regardless of whether they play in the Big Ten championship game or get into the playoffs.
Even 10-2 was a hell of a season.
So I want to touch on that.
We're going to get greedy, though. Of course, we're going to get greedy because we're in the same position we were last year.
But so this is obviously a huge, critical 3-game stretch coming up for Penn State this season, and I think to some extent for the program as a whole. For a wide variety of reasons. But, Penn State could go 1-2 in this stretch. And listen, the fans that are, well, if you don't beat Ohio State and Michigan, you're not earning the money that you're getting. There's going to be, it's the same SEC fans that are telling their coaches that if you don't beat Nick Saban, more often than EBT. Well, good luck with that. And people will throw up the, Penn State's record against Ohio State under Franklin. What's the Big Ten coach that has this grand winning record against the Buckeyes? You got to show that to me before you start. So And again, I get it. Penn State wants to be and expects to be at the pinnacle. That's cool. Down with that. That's fine. But, Georgia fans are thinking the same thing. Yep. Florida fans are thinking, Tennessee fans are thinking the same thing. Auburn fans are thinking the same thing. So, well, there are teams that are just really, really hard to beat. And Ohio State and Penn State has been closer than anybody consistently and frustratingly so. I mean, I understand that's part of the frustration here for Penn State fans. But at the end of the day, if Penn State goes 1-2 in this critical, and I'm on board with this being a critical 3-game stretch, but if Penn State goes 1-2 and it is close losses at Michigan and to an Ohio State team that ends up, let's say, winning the national title or at least getting to the national title game, when you look at the predictions at the beginning of the season, what's happened in the last 2 years, and if Penn State, it's still a big if, by the way, you got to then finish that thing out. I mean, I'm presuming the 3 wins then at the end of the year after that 3-game stretch, and that's not a given by any stretch, or 4 games, whatever it is, after this 3-game stretch. But if Penn State does, I mean, you get to 10-2 and it's 2 close losses at Michigan and to Ohio State. I mean, that at the beginning of the season, there were not many people thinking that was what was going to happen. And again, a lot that could play out differently after that 3-game stretch. I understand that there's not – it's not that you wave the magic wand and there's 4 more victories there.
So you said about who's this coach in the Big Ten who has all these wins against Ohio State. I mean, Harbaugh's only got 1. James has got 1. I mean, does anybody have more than that? I mean, the only person I can think of was – does France have 2?
Purdue as a program has a couple.
As a program.
I don't think there's a coach with – I got to think it through.
That's nuts to think about, but yeah.
I'll look up Florence.
Well, yeah, Florence might have over. Although I don't. Well, yeah, I'm not sure.
Think Fitz? They beat Ohio State 22. Yeah, I don't think there's one there.
Florence is the only possible one.
That's crazy to think about. I mean, you said it. Who's this guy who beat Michigan and beat Ohio State all the time? But, wow.
Well, anyway, so the
ADD.
the bottom line is whether this is the biggest game of Franklin's career to date, I'm not sure I'd go that far, but it is a really big game. And more than that, and I think the way the program needs to look at it is this just a great opportunity to really announce with some authority that Penn State football is back with a capital BACK. Over how long has he been there now?
He's the longest tenured coach in the NCAA.
What's he at now?
He was hired the day before Stoops, or Stoops was hired the day before him. So what was that? 2000.
So 18 is he 18 years?
I think he's over 20 actually.
Is he over 20?
Yeah, I think so.
He's over. Okay. Yeah, he's the longest tenured coach in the NCAA right now. Once Bob Stoops stepped down a couple years ago.
So, and that's 2 wins.
That's 2 wins.
That long of a stretch. I think Franklin. Will get at least 1 more in the next decade if he's here for another decade.
Please don't say that.
I
24.
think.
He's been at 24th year. I got you.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So, I don't think, but you said it right. You said on paper, it's not the most important game in his career, but when it all is said and done, maybe in 6 months from now, you're going to look back on it and say that was the most important game in Franklin's career. Because I look at that Minnesota game when we won in overtime a couple of years ago when Franklin was really, really, really in the doghouse.
Yeah, we talk about seizing opportunities, right? Like that. This just feels right now like an opportunity for this year's team in particular, but the program really as well, to kind of truly build off of what happened in 2016. And I get we look back 6 years, but some good things came out of 2016 for sure. I mean, meaning the next few years, and they did build off of it. But this feels like it can be an extension of that good trajectory for the program. And I really think, I think this team has a chance to kind of reestablish Penn State's national presence and national identity And, I did an interview, get ready to drink, this morning with Cal.
Oh,
but we were talking about the big picture stuff with college athletics and kids that are out there looking around and all of the things that now there's a lot of things that kids and families can consider when going to college, always has been. And now there's an additional, 2 or 3 layers of stuff that they also need to consider and think about when trying to decide where they're going to spend the next 4 to, in Sean Clifford's case, decade of their life with the college experience. And I think a win over Michigan kind of reestablishes that, yes, Penn State is a school that you should be considering. When you look at, and it already has a lot going for it, when you look at the number of NFL players, right, and that's a big deal to kids coming out of high. I mean, if you want to get to the NFL, hey, this is a school that is an NFL factory, right? I mean, that's a consideration for sure. But I think when you look at again, big picture stuff, okay, well, this is a program, it had a couple of down years, but pretty consistently now, they're getting to that 10-win mark at least during the seasons. And I think it allows you to continue to capitalize and monetize the recruiting efforts of the last few years. And that's not insignificant either, is hey, big money boosters. Look how close we are now. We got back to 10 wins or 11 wins, and we're knocking on the door. Need your help to get over that. That's big. Whereas it's another 6-6 season. We need a lot of help from you, brother, to get to where we want to go. Right? I mean, it's so. There's from an image standpoint, I think from a reality standpoint, all of those that this is a really important game coming up with Michigan, and
I can't wait.
Yeah, and listen, I like what Penn State is doing with its personnel. I was talking with a few folks. There's always fans that are unhappy with the game plan. Throw out the game plan from this past Saturday. This was not. Why are we just so? I'm like, are you? Maybe that's not coming across on the TV. I'm like,
somebody said you
reading
said
messages
55 points, and I'm like, it was a monsoon.
I did not know. Although I did predict it. I did.
We all did.
I thought there was going to be rain.
Not like that.
But I thought it was going to be intermittent, even up till noon. That's what the stuff I was looking at, anyways. It's like, well, yeah, there's going to be some showers.
Dude, I'm telling you, I know I was wishful thinking, but we were out there tailgating. Again, I got there before 8 o'clock, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, my Dodgers.
The mountains are just going to protect us. That's what I was thinking.
Because I have a friend up here who says if you can see the top of Mount Nittany when the weather's good. And it really holds true a lot. In all weather, it's really crazy. So we literally watched Mount Nittany. We're like, I can still see it. We still see it. And we're like, wow, there's pretty nice skies over there. And then somebody said, look behind you. And I was like, uh-oh. There's no Mount Nittany over there to protect this. So, you've got to, again, getting out of that game, healthy. I don't recall any big injuries. I was just upset about how, nonchalant James was about the fumbles. I mean, he was just so ho-hum about it.
It's like he just doesn't care. I think the running backs were relieved because they didn't have to worry about it. They went to the sideline. He's like, oh, it's all right.
Guys are good. Have a
Go
seat.
get them next time. Don't worry about it.
Like, that there's like certain things that drive coaches crazy, and I never saw James act like that. And you could just tell that he is, he was harping on them the whole day. Yeah. Hang on to the football. Hang on to the football. Hang on to the football. And they're young guys, so. Again, they're going to have to deal with that for the next 4 years. So as long as they play here, they're going to be told, he's a fumbler. Get after that ball. Get after it. Again, get out of it healthy. Get into your off week and go from there. So,
yeah, I do like this offensive line is playing as well as we've seen an offensive line play in a while here. And I'm not sitting here telling you that this is a one of the premier offensive lines in the country by any stretch. But they are actually opening up holes for the running backs, and they are protecting Sean Clifford. The pass protection, and I'm willing to allow that it could have been the weather, but Sean a couple of times just threw god-awful passes.
I noticed that.
I mean, the accuracy, and I get it was raining, and I get the win in the second half, but, man, they're plays that you absolutely have to make at this level of football when they're there. I mean, you have wide-open receivers. You have a completely clean pocket. You have to deliver the football.
A couple of them were like, dude. I mean, there was a few of them were like, we're crazy to even see it like that. Offensive line-wise, very happy with these guys. And
it's hard not to.
We're talking to some guys on the team throughout the last few weeks, and it's just good to hear them. It seems like they're more comfortable in what they're doing and in the game plans. And under your situations, the second year in the offense, and I was talking to them about last night about that. It's all about the confidence, Drake. But you have to have confidence going into a game, and if you make a mistake, you make the mistake at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Just go out and hit somebody.
Is pretty strong going into the season.
Sure,
that's a double.
That's a double. Pound it. Finish that bottle. So, I mean, these guys are just talking about how, it is now. They also have guys hitting the hole much, much faster right now. And I wanted to ask them, but it was a little too intricate of a question. But, I mean, do we want to hit the holes the hard as they are right now? Or do we want to be more patient as a running back? And then who was the receiver last night? Mitch? Tinsley was on last night. He was talking about wide receivers. And I was like, we started talking about how they're blocking downfield. And, we talk about, these guys are not breaking these 40, 50, 60-yard runs without these guys blocking downfield. Right. And these guys are really taking it to heart right now. They're really taking pride in their blocking. And they actually are. Because you haven't seen us break a freaking touchdown in how long. I know for a fact because when I was here, Kenny Jackson was our wide receivers coach, got here at 93. And, again, I give him a lot of credit for giving that 94 team that our swagger, the bravado we had. Because he had all those receivers just straight balling. Like, listen, Johnny Carter ain't going to he's not going to have that 83-yard touchdown run in the first play of that Rose Bowl if Bobby Ingram and Freddie Scott are not out there blocking downfield. It all works in the same. And we were talking about how football is the greatest team sport because all it takes is one guy not doing their job, and it blows the whole freaking thing up. So you got to have your receivers blocking and Singleton's running down the field on an 80-yard scamper. That's not because the tight end made a block, and that's the other thing I wanted to say is they are playing very, very well.
They are.
I got to give Booch a lot of credit because he was the one calling those guys out at the beginning of the season saying, they had a little bit of a little slump last year. They needed to pick it up, and God Almighty, they have really picked it up this year, receiving and blocking. So again, you're not getting the edges on these longer runs and these the quick hitter. That's the offensive line, but throose long runs on the outside and tosses and pitches, that's on the tight ends right there. So they're doing a hell of a job. It's just good to see these guys in a second year in the offense, and they're more comfortable at it, and they're getting after it. They're being more aggressive in their blocking schemes, and it doesn't hurt that we have three pretty damn good running backs right now.
Yeah, that is for sure. That is part of the difference maker. There's no question. And they all bring a little different something to the table, which is also, I think, nice. It's a nice mix right now that they have going for the. I think for the offensive line, because again, you can set a little adjustments, and guys are going to pick up on different little things. When you have an experienced line, and then you have the explosiveness that the backs have, and the ability to take advantage
every play to go to the house.
Yeah,
that's the mark of a good damn offense.
Yep, that hasn't been there in a while.
A long while.
Yeah. So I think, again, I'm not sure at the end of the day how much you really take away from the game against Northwestern, but bottom line is this team is 5-0, which is where it needed to be to try to get to where it wants to be, and to I think for the fan base to feel good about the direction of the program anyway. Now, again, these next 3 games are going to a large degree, define the season. And, it'll be interesting to see. I'm curious to see how Minnesota bounces back from, what was a very tough loss to Purdue at home. But I think that, makes that Purdue win look a little better for Penn State as well to start the season. And the conference as a whole, again, to me, is hard to get a read on. Illinois may be the team to beat in the West right now, right? I mean, it's crazy. But, that team right now, I think
we'll see Saturday.
has as good a chance as anybody. As you're looking at it right now, there is no team in the West that is jumping off the page at you as to, look out, they're going to be world beaters. Which isn't to say that by the end of the season one of them couldn't be. Yeah. But, Iowa's offense isn't going to allow it to be a juggernaut. Again, Wisconsin, I would be curious if somebody could write a book about what has happened, because something obviously went haywire here. And I don't know if it's been a gradual thing and now we're just seeing the results, or if something just happened this offseason or even at the beginning of this year internally. I have no idea, but
I don't.
Wisconsin is just such a model of consistency. Correct. That this is the last thing you expect is them to just be family
atmosphere, right, Coach?
Getting absolutely
all the recruits. It's family atmosphere. And I told Chris last night, and I get your opinion on this. And this is in no way, shape, or form did I hear any of this ever. But in my head, did they really want Jim Leonard as their head coach? And I think that Nebraska might be taking a run at him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they might have just said, okay, we're already three down games right now. It might be like, okay, let's get rid of Chris and let's get Jim in right now. That's how I feel about it. And then I even went a step farther, and I said, did you ever hear the Fillmore stories with Johnny Majors? Fillmore was the DC, maybe even the OC. He was a coordinator of, I think it was an OC. But they said he was possibly purposely tanking because he knew he was the coach in waiting, but he wanted Johnny out of there a little sooner. So you don't know. Leonard played for Alvarez, so Alvarez is making all the calls out there. There's nobody else out there doing anything like that. But again, you just said it. They're the model of consistency. That's their thing. Like they're the guys who play the same type of offense, the same type of defense, and they play hard. And they're like the Penn State from 40 years ago. Yeah. And to just be unhappy with your coach, that's fine. Give him a chance, but maybe they gave him that chance already, and it was already going down to. But the Leonard thing going to Nebraska, I think it makes a little bit of sense. As scary as that sounds, and I could actually make a little bit of sense, but it seems to be that they want him in that position ASAP, and where they're going to make a run at Leonard in Nebraska, and then Albert Barry got a little skeptical, a little scared to figure they could get him in now, or like I said, maybe they gave him his last chance. Was like, hey, it starts going downhill, we're going to get rid of you quick. But it's just so alarming. There has to be more to the story. Yeah, for that program to act like that,
you would certainly think. That's.
But then we were also thinking that Scott Frost was the coach of the year. You and I, and then we hear all these stories of him out just, Jesus God, what took him so long to fire him? What's the plan for the weekend, Ironhead?
For this weekend?
What's your bye week?
Well, I'm actually going to be doing the PA announcing for a couple of Penn State fall softball games on Saturday, so that'll be fun.
Inside.
Actually looking forward to that. No, it'll be.
You're outside?
Oh, yeah.
You are outside? Isn't there a box?
Oh, no, I'm in the box. All right, I see.
You personally?
Yes. I personally, yes, I will be on.
The girls out there, they can be cold all they want. You were in your cold last week.
I got it.
God, was that cold? Was that bad?
Yeah, it was.
Once you got
and
cold,
that
you
wind
were done.
picking up in the second half didn't help matters at all. That's for sure. One of the more memorable weather games, although there have been a lot of them.
What's your worst?
over the years. I still think that Notre Dame. It was just because it was close, but it was still worth it. But
rating-wise, what was your thought?
There was a game, or was that? I think that was Snow against Temple. I think it was in '77. I was just a little kid, and so my perspective may be skewed on that one. There was a Navy game too in the '70s that was just but it was warmer. It was a torrential downpour. Again, in my kid memory mind, it was a torrential downpour all game long. But it was a warmer. It wasn't like that was. Not, and it wasn't bitterly cold or anything. I don't know. The temperature's like in the low 50s, I think, right? Yeah, it's on Saturday. But, you get that wet and then a little wind, and then it felt worse. Yeah, that one would be up there for me.
I'm going to say that 06 Akron game you said, that was the most rain I ever saw
that
Penn
was
State, at Penn State-wise, and there was remember there was a game we played at Rutgers on, I believe it was in 92 or 93 when the field just kept getting ripped up because they had just put the sod down. I don't know if it was the rain that was that bad, or maybe the Pitt game that we had a lot of rain, but I remember that Rutgers game that they had replaced the sod for the stadium the summer before, and it didn't grip. And then once it got wet during that one of those games, and it was like maybe a second week in a row it was wet, and it was just like stuff was kicking up and this and that. And I had to tell Booch about it last night. The big hubbub was that they replaced the grass with non-Penn State ag building or turf management grass. I remember that was the big thing.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of mad people about that. They had to go out of state. They're like, whoa, we do that right here. So that was a bad one. But then, I could deal with the cold. I don't mind the cold when if it's in comparison to the rain. The rain is just awful. It's just once you get cold and wet. So I told Booch, I said I was up in the suites, so it wasn't like I was actually out in the elements. So, but we broke our tailgate down because our Dish Network obviously was off in the parking lot. So our tailgate decided, hey, we're going to go watch the game somewhere. So I said I have to go to the suites to see some people. So I told you guys off the air, but about 2:40 we decided to break the tailgate down. At 2:39 the skies decided to open up, and it hadn't rained all day. It had not rained, and it was like, oh man, we might get away with this. And then having to clean up and just stand there in the rain and get wet, and then walk up to the suites, and then oh my god, and I was wearing like clothes like this. I didn't have any Gore-Tex on or anything, so my underwears were cold, were wet. So
it's no good.
Nah, not at all.
But good for it.
Getting home, I mean, it was like a childhood, like being cold outside and getting home and in your house. Like, that's what it felt like Saturday afternoon, getting home finally, putting warm clothes on and sitting there watching the game.
Yeah, let's turn to a couple of other things with the
how the Steelers. What's up with the Steelers?
Yeah, I think they're looking pretty good. Feeling like it's going to be a great season at the end of the day. I will say it was fun. I mean, Kenny Pickett definitely did give energy to the team. The interception was not his fault, but it is just crazy to me that all game long that it's like average at best quarterback play, really by both teams. And then all of a sudden when the Jets need it, it's like, nope, pinpoint accuracy. It wasn't like the Steelers, I don't know, I got into a bit of a argument with a friend. I'm like, the Steelers defense didn't play poorly that last drive. He's like, what are you talking about? They came right down. I'm like, I know, but go back and look. Like, it wasn't like there wasn't good coverage. It was like all of a sudden it was Tom Brady at the top of his game. Like, it was every pass was exactly where it had to be, and the receiver, I mean, it was great passes and catches the whole way down. Now, there were some runs that, it was disappointing to see them gashed the way they were in a couple of those spots. But, I mean, Zach Wilson all of a sudden turned into – and it was Zach Wilson most of the game, which is, he's a serviceable starting quarterback. It's not like he's awful, but all of a sudden when they needed him to be, he was – Big Ben in his prime.
Yep.
It was just, I don't know. It was frustrating, obviously, as a Steelers.
So you know how I like to make fun of you Yinsers, right? Just the fans,
Yeah.
because they're.
Although
our fans are just as good.
I'm not sure I want to watch this Steelers-Bills game.
14.
I will say that. I'm not sure that's.
14.
I know, but I'm not sure that's even. I'm not sure if I was betting, and I'm not, but I wouldn't take the
Steelers are plus 14 versus the Bills. So I kid around with my Pittsburgh fans, but and their dedication to their teams are fantastic, and I give them just kind of bust their balls a little bit. But one of my friends told me on Facebook the other day, saying this team really misses T.J. Watt. I said, no shit, really? I said the '85 Bears are going to miss T.J. Watt. I mean, I was like, really? That's your take from that game, was that the Steelers really miss T.J. Watt. That's a great call. Reggie White was really missed with the Eagles back in the '90s. So,
well, I'll tell you, Goon, to be honest with you, when you go back to that Iowa game last year, I think the Penn State offense was Sean Clifford.
yeah,
To be honest with you, a little bit. I went back and I rewatched that game, and I think Clifford's injury actually factored into the way that game played out.
And then we should have had a silent snap count going into that game too. I mean, they should have done that. It's a miracle, unbelievable.
Anyway.
So you bullish yet? Are your horns growing? You're not going to get there. I know you said you're going to wait till the next three.
I want to see how this stretch plays out, both each game individually, and then kind of how it progresses through the three games. I will say the one thing, and I know there are the detractors out there that if James Franklin doesn't beat Ohio State, then it's all for naught and whatever. Yeah, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I will tell you, I did watch a good bit of that Ohio State game.
Jesus,
that is a
juggernaut.
And I know we've been very high on Ohio State before, and I'm not guaranteeing anything. But watching Georgia and watching Alabama, and Alabama, by the way, I will say, took care of business much easier than I thought they were going to.
Close there a little bit.
It did. But I thought it was going to be, I really thought that was going to be like a touchdown game. I figured it was going to come right down into the wire.
But they rallied around. They lose the
Yep.
Heisman favorite, probably.
Yep.
They rally around the troops, and they score 49 points. I mean,
they do. But that defense gave up, 26? So neither Alabama or Georgia, and I haven't watched a lot of Alabama, but that is – and Alabama could still win the national title. And Georgia could still win the national title. So I get it. I'm not saying that either of those teams are awful or anything like that. But, yeah, they both look vulnerable. Neither of them look like absolute world beaters. Alabama is going to be a very tough out, for sure. I don't know that Georgia's as tough of an out. It's still a tough out, but I think Alabama is still rightfully, my favorite to win the national title. But I'm telling you, watching Ohio State, and it's hard. You're the eye test, which is always dangerous with me. I'm just saying that Ohio State team looks as good and complete as we've seen in a while. And Ryan Day is giving high praise, and I think it's one of those situations where I think there are just times where you have it, right? And I think Ryan Day knows he has it. Now, whether or not it is a national championship team, we'll find out. But he knows that this team is special. Like, it is really good. Which is not to say, again, the Penn State can't win it, but I would caution anybody, anywhere, against measuring whether or not their team is good or successful or anything like that by what they do against Ohio State this season. Because I'm not sure Alabama or Georgia are going to have the type of success that they're used to against that Ohio State team. If it continues to improve, which you assume it will, and if it stays healthy, I just Stroud is every bit that at quarterback. They have two really good lines, and they have they're a complete football team. They are really
I think we match up the best with Ohio State. If you're going to put Michigan, Georgia, and Alabama in a room with Ohio State and Penn State, I think that we match up the best against them. That's our strong point.
Yeah,
their strength is our strength. So
I don't disagree with you. The one thing Sean Clifford is going to have to, or whoever the starting quarterback is, for those of you that are I'm not getting into that, but the quarterback play has to be stellar in that game, right? I mean, it has to be stellar.
Who doesn't look for
Penn State.
quarterback controversy at Penn State?
I'm avoiding people texting me.
No, but you're right.
Saying, why are you assuming?
Not just Sean Clifford needs to play a perfect game. The O-line needs to play a good game. The defense needs to play.
Yeah, I'm not saying perfect, but I mean, it has to be a really sharp, crisp night, and you can't have the mental mistake or two or
he played well against them last year. I will give him that.
No question.
He really, really did. He kept us in that game last year.
Yep.
That could have been should have been much worse.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll see. Little ways to worry about that one. Real quick, congratulations to your Phillies. Congratulations to your Eagles. Looking good. Pirates and Steelers not so much, but I do have hockey season coming around.
Yeah,
and Crosby's pass
everybody watching
was pretty spectacular.
It's already hockey season for you?
Yeah, well, yes.
Oh,
have you seen what my teams are doing?
I know, that's why I'm asking. Because that's usually
what am I gonna I mean, the great drama right now for Pittsburgh is, will the Pirates actually lose 100? And spoiler alert, they will.
They will not.
No, they will.
They will not.
Probably
Cardinals arrested all their guys.
It doesn't matter. Have you seen what the Pirates are putting out there? And listen, the Steelers, I still think the Steelers can turn things around, relatively speaking, and have a decent season, but it doesn't start this Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. That I feel pretty confident on. Although I was saying the same thing last year in the opener, and the Steelers beat the Bills.
Buffalo looks pretty damn beatable. I mean, they lost to Miami. Remember we said that Thursday night game? Of how beat up the Dolphins were going to be in that game. And then what happened to Tua is an absolute disgrace, by the way.
Yeah,
I cannot believe that went down. I mean, I really, in today's world, I really am surprised that played out the way it did. I'm going to tell you're in the wrestling world, I'm in the football world, and this and that. But you know athletes. And this is the problem, is that Tua, I guarantee, when they came out and said it was a back injury, a player, a guy who wants to play in that game, a competitor like a Tua, is going to say whatever the hell it takes.
But you've got
for him to get back in that game. Yeah. And that's why if the doctor has to be strong enough to tell him Tua, no, shut your mouth.
Well, you have to see, like, somebody either wasn't.
Larry fired one guy.
Right, I know, but what I'm saying is somebody on the sideline has to be somebody had to have seen it, right? Like, I'm not saying the head coach or the doctor necessarily has to see everything.
The Dolphins one?
Yeah, on Sunday. The game on Sunday. Right, but he came out and said it was back. Right. And I'm saying somebody has to see on the field that he's wobbly and that he hit his head, and that even if he's telling you it's a back injury, we got to check to see, because you banged your head and you're looking woozy. We've got to at least check to make sure. Maybe it is the back, but it sure looked like it was probably the head. Well, yeah, the thing Thursday night was just outright.
Freaked me out, man.
Frightening. Yeah.
Freaked me out.
No, it's very scary stuff.
But I just wanted to say that as a former player, you're going to say whatever it takes.
No, it's not. But that's why they've taken it out. And that's why they've taken it out of the coaches and players' hands.
But he must have intimidated the doctor, because they fired that guy for not following the rules, and he probably got scared. He probably oh yeah, you're fine. Crazy, man, crazy. I mean, I hope he's okay. That's something he's going to deal with his rest of his career. Like, he's going to be putting it every play. He may be out. I mean, it's like Crosby. Crosby's one hit. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's been like that for 10 years now. Yep. So, not that I don't ever want to see that. I never would, actually. I'd like to see him get hit. Just never lose a career on an injury. You never want to see that. So, all right, Thursday. We can get a little better weather here. Yeah, I feel like we're back at Beaver Stadium on Saturday, so I don't have to sit out in it for the next 3.5 or 4 hours. Beautiful. We will be back on Thursday. Until then, be good and be safe. And don't be the Pirates.
make more good in the all-new Sportage X-Pro. Kia, movement that inspires.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
New Trail Brewing Company proudly crafts their beers right here in central Pennsylvania. Brewed with only the best possible ingredients, New Trail produces a variety of year-round brands as well as weekly experimental recipes. New Trail Broken Heels is Pennsylvania's favorite local hazy IPA. This beer is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is perfect for a pregame tailgate all the way through the victory celebration.
What's the best mid-size pickup? Tacoma. What's the #1 mid-size truck in resale value? Tacoma. Want to get great gas mileage, 4 doors, and 4-wheel drive? Tacoma. Sioka Toyota of Williamsport has over 25 available right now. You can lease a brand new, never-driven Toyota Tacoma for just $379 a month. That's 30 months, $3,000 cash or trade, 10,000 miles a year. This is while supplies last. Buy yours or reserve yours today and see the Sioka difference. And remember, tell them Johnny sent you.